On the edge of a vast, sunlit meadow, where wildflowers danced in the gentle breeze and tall grass swayed like waves on a green ocean, there lived a shy little rabbit named Rosie, who spent most of her days safely tucked inside her cozy burrow beneath an old oak tree, peeking out only when she thought the meadow was completely empty, for she had always been afraid of the unknown, the rustling sounds in the underbrush, the sudden swoop of birds overhead, and even the whisper of wind through the leaves. But Rosie's life, though safe, was small and lonely, and though she longed to see more of the meadow and the distant forest beyond, she never had the courage to leave her familiar corner of the world. Until one crisp morning when the sun had barely risen and the dew still clung like tiny diamonds to the grass, a clever fox named Felix appeared on the scene, with bright amber eyes that seemed to sparkle with mischief and wisdom, and a sleek fiery coat that shimmered in the soft light. And though foxes were often feared by the rabbits of the meadow, Rosie noticed something different in Felix. He was observing her with curiosity, not hunger, and there was a gentle confidence in his step that suggested he had wandered many meadows and forests and knew much about the world beyond. So when Felix approached her with a polite nod, Rosie's heart leapt into her throat, half with fear and half with excitement, for she had never had a visitor who was both intriguing and entirely non-threatening. And Felix, sensing her hesitation, crouched slightly, careful not to startle her, and spoke in a calm, almost playful voice. "Hello there, little one. I couldn't help but notice you sitting here all alone. The meadow is beautiful, but there's so much more to see if you dare to step beyond your burrow." Rosie twitched her ears nervously and whispered back, I'm not very brave. The world outside is big and scary." Felix smiled, a knowing glint in his eyes, and replied, "Bravery isn't about never being afraid. It's about taking the first step even when you are. Sometimes the smallest steps lead to the greatest adventures." For the next several days, Felix became Rosie's unlikely guide, teaching her how to observe the meadow without fear, how to notice the subtle signs of other creatures passing by, and how to find safe paths through the tall grass and hidden trails in the forest's edge. And Rosie began to feel a spark of courage igniting within her, a warmth she had never felt before, as if the world outside her burrow was not only full of danger, but also full of wonder and life. And each lesson with Felix made her heart beat faster, not with terror but with excitement for the first time in her life, and she discovered the joy of hopping freely through the meadow, listening to the songs of birds, the buzzing of bees, and the rustle of leaves overhead. And with each passing day, her confidence grew, though she never forgot the lessons Felix had taught her about caution and observation, for he had emphasized that true cleverness involved both courage and awareness, not reckless boldness. And he had shown her clever ways to escape potential dangers, like hiding beneath fallen logs or slipping into thickets, teaching her that sometimes thinking ahead could be as powerful as quick legs. And though Felix often teased her gently about her initial shyness, it was always in good humor, and Rosie began to look forward to their walks together, enjoying his stories of faraway meadows, rushing rivers, and secret glades where animals of all kinds lived in harmony. Stories that made Rosie dream of the wider world and imagine herself not just as a timid little rabbit, but as a brave explorer who could face challenges and still find beauty. Until one fateful afternoon when dark clouds gathered over the meadow and a sudden torrential downpour began to fall, washing away familiar scents, turning paths into streams, and sending the small animals of the meadow scrambling for shelter. Rosie found herself separated from her friends, with rushing water creeping toward the lowlands and frightened cries filling the air. And despite her newfound courage, a pang of fear struck her heart, for this was real danger, not just lessons in observation and clever thinking, and she froze for a moment, unsure which way to go, until she remembered Felix's words. "Bravery is taking action even when you are afraid." And in that instant, Rosie took a deep breath, her little chest rising and falling with determination, and she began to hop toward the shelter of a nearby thicket, calling out to her friends as she went, guiding them to higher ground, using every trick Felix had taught her to navigate safely through the flooded meadow. And as she moved, she noticed other animals struggling. The deer calf stuck near the riverbank, the baby birds tossed about in their nests, the hedgehog frightened by the rising waters, and without hesitation, Rosie led them to safety,